This past week, I had the privilege of joining Angie House and Tom Costello in Christian Marriage on Friday. And they've been connected to our church for many years. Some of you might remember Angie from when she sang in our worship team when she was younger, before she went to college and graduated and works off Cape now. But why I start by mentioning their marriage is because when you commit yourself to being married, you're saying, we're in this together. In good times and in bad, in sickness and in health, we are in this together for the long haul. And that same theme, which is part of any Christian marriage, is also part of being a member of the church. And in Matthew chapter 18 and verses 15 through 20, Jesus is talking about the church, and he's talking about this theme of how we're all in this together. In times of difficulty, in times of prayer, we are in this together. And so the passage begins by talking about conflict. If another member of the church sins against you, go and point out the fault when the two of you are alone. If the member listens to you, you have regained that one. And this implies and suggests it's highly likely that there are going to be times in the church when, hey, we step on one another's toes, when we do something, whether unintentionally or inadvertently, or maybe sadly, occasionally, even on purpose, where we hurt someone through what we say or what we do. And of course, that shouldn't be, and that isn't our goal. We don't want to intentionally hurt anybody. But there are times when someone sins against us and we need to have a difficult conversation and acknowledge and say, hey, we're sisters and brothers in Christ, and I need to be vulnerable and tell you, when you did X, this is how it made me feel. And it's never easy having those conversations, but the irony is when we are willing to have those hard conversations, to be vulnerable and courageous, and to talk about how what happened and how it made me feel, not to use words of blame or accusation like you always or you never or you did this, or to presume we know what somebody else felt, or that we presume we know the assumption behind someone else's behavior. That's never helpful. What we talk about, when X happened, this is how it made me feel, and I need to share that with you. And then Jesus goes on and talks about how, hey, if someone doesn't listen, there's kind of an escalating process of church discipline, of having a couple of people come in and witnessing a conversation, or in the worst case scenario, having to actually have someone leave the fellowship of the church because their behavior is so contrary to the teaching of Christ and is harmful for the body. But then it ends with our verse of the day, for where two or three are gathered in my name, I am there among them. And I just find that so helpful. You know, it's even when we're with two or three other people from the church in a time of prayer, on a walk, over a meal, Jesus is there in our midst. Whether that's a time of conflict and the need to extend and receive forgiveness, a time of prayer, or a time of fellowship, just remember, Jesus is always the unseen presence in our midst.